Starting horse value. Going to talk about some more columns here. We're going to talk about form cycle, trainer, and jockey. Okay. Now, form cycle is a really basic column, and you can get either a blank, a 1, or a 2, 3. Okay. A 1 is a layoff of over 3 months or a first-time starter. A 2, 3 is a horse making second or third start off a layoff of more than 3 months, or a horse making second or third lifetime start. Okay? So if you go up to these races up here where you have these maiden claiming races, maiden special weight, some of these horses with these 2, 3s might be just making their second or third lifetime start. And these 1s are making their first lifetime start, okay, in the form cycle. Here, maiden special weight, these horses could be coming off a layoff or could be making second or third lifetime starts. This is a 5.5 furlong allowance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 horses making second or third off the layoff. And then you have 1 horse here with a long layoff of 7 months. I talk about fitness in a different video, but this is a 7-month layoff. This horse is coming off a long layoff. So you can get either a long layoff score. Here's a 1 long layoff, a 3-month layoff, or you can get 2, 3, which is a horse making second or third start off the layoff. And why is this important? Okay, because horses making second or third off the layoff, or even a horse coming off a long layoff, sometimes these horses will improve, okay? And it's just an alert that they can improve. And there is some math that happens in this column over here to the right, this best odds column, which I'm going to talk about in a different video. But sometimes it may be a heads up, okay? So let's look at this one, Jungle Juice, okay? So Jungle Juice is making second or third start off the layoff, and you'll see this PFDS odds and best odds, which I'll talk more about in another video, but you see this huge improvement, okay? And that's basically, there's a race and this horse has passed before they had a layoff, which was competitive, okay? Very competitive. In fact, this 3-1 is better than any other horse in the race. And maybe this layoff, and maybe now the second or third start off the layoff, will cause this horse to run back to that old race, okay? So that's gets factored into the math here on the best odds, which we'll talk about more in a different video. So that's form cycle. Hopefully I didn't confuse too many people. All right, trainer-jockey. Now, the math on trainer-jockey is set up really looking at sort of win likelihood, okay? So for trainer, I'm looking at the angles that the trainer has specific to the horse in question. So in some races, you might have the same trainer in the same race, and those horses could get different trainer scores because there's different angles applicable to that horse. And when I mean angles, I mean coming off a layoff or adding blinkers or Lasix or start trying a stakes race or going turf to dirt. Or, there's so many different angles out there. They're all factored in to this trainer score. And so it's not looking at the trainer in a generic way, okay? But obviously the good trainers are going to be doing better on those angles than the bad trainers. Look at this race 2, though, Parish Bell. This horse gets a 12 trainer, okay? It's a really high score and is significantly better than these others. This one gets a 0. Jumacon Bourbon gets a 0. Okay, now, I try to make these scores very easy just to look at and interpret. If there's more horses in the race, like this one, there's, 11 horses in this race, that obviously decreases the probability that any one trainer can win, and that will compress the scores down. Okay, now you see the maximum in this race is 8s. Same here, 8s and 9s. And when you have fewer horses in a race, you might get some bigger numbers or lower numbers. Okay, here's some negative numbers. That basically is a default. It's probably a 0 trainer. And the way the math is set up is 3 points is basically a 50% difference. So This trainer with this 12, Overly Dioro, is, basically twice as likely to win than this trainer on Ramos with the 9. That's a rough and tough. It's not exactly twice as much, okay? But it's a rough and tough. That 3 points is 50%. Now, I'm only looking at the trainer. That's all I'm looking at, okay? There's other factors obviously affecting the horses. But you can see that this trainer is definitely the best trainer in the race. And these trainers down here with zeros are much worse. Now, jockey is a little more generic. I look at the jockey stats for the meet. I look at the jockey stats for the year. And I get a general feeling for how good the jockey is. The math is the same, though. The 3 points is significant. In fact, significant, what I mean by that, half as likely to win. So, like Ramos with this 5 jockey is half as likely to win as KBC later with this 9 jockey. Or even Zafiro Enea with this 8 jockey. So, and that, again, I'm only looking at the jockey. That's not the only factor in the race. But, so this jockey is significantly weaker. It's the weakest jockey in the race. Now, occasionally you'll see these scenarios like this one here. A 0 trainer, 8 jockey. Okay? That's unusual. Okay? For a good, this jockey 8 is competitive. And it's unusual for a good competitive jockey like that to get on board for a poor trainer. Same thing happened here with Spurs Up. A 9 jockey tied for best in the race gets on for a 0 trainer. It's very unusual. The better the jockey, the better the trainers they work with. And so you really got to pay attention when a really good jockey gets on board for an unheralded trainer. And I call that over-jocked. You got too good a jockey on board, and you could sometimes catch a big long shot looking at that. Now, these horses here that I spiked out are, short odds, 3-1. So it doesn't really help you. But occasionally, let's see if there's any, this one's maybe Ready Pursuit. Gets a -1 trainer. It's really bad. Gets a 6 jockey. So that's over-jocked. Problem is, 6 jockey is not that great. It's just basically average. So, somebody had to ride for that horse, for that trainer. I don't know if that's really, I'd really call that over-jocked. So you got, it's something to look at. The difference between the jockey and the trainer. Sometimes you'll see a negative jockey, and usually that's an apprentice jockey. And pay attention to that. I don't think we have any like that in here. But sometimes you'll see a negative jockey, and those jockeys, might be getting a big weight break. Okay? And weight is factored in to these columns over here, PFTS odds and best odds. I'll talk about that later. But weight is automatically factored in. And so that's the trainer, that's the jockey, that's the form cycle. Hopefully I helped explain those columns a little better for everybody. Thank you very much.